Well, Simon Chadwick is Professor of AfroEurasian Sport at Emlyon Business School in Shanghai. Simon, thanks for joining us. We've just been hearing there from Donald Trump. What's your assessment of this situation?
It's unique and unprecedented. There are some leagues in the world where after a match has taken place, red cards can be rescinded, but that's within their rules, and those rules have been consensually agreed. A collective group has agreed them. In this particular case, FIFA has no such protocol or rules. And so therefore this is a decision that hasn't been widely agreed, very unexpected, and of course there's been the intervention of a politician.
Well, FIFA calls itself a non-political organisation, but many would argue that this blurs the line between sport and politics.
For me, this entire tournament has been a tipping point, because we hear that FIFA is supposed to be a non-political organisation, and yet we have its president arguably becoming embroiled in geopolitics more so than any other FIFA president before. We also hear that FIFA's not a business. It's the custodian of the world game, a guardian of football, and yet in reality what it is doing is it's making decisions on the basis of money and commercial return. So I think when we look back in history at this particular tournament, it will be seen as really a tipping point for FIFA and a tipping point for world football.
Simon, do you think if that call had come from the president of a smaller country, would FIFA have responded in the same way?
That's a really great question. If you remember the controversy around Qatar 2022, which is obviously a much smaller country, there are only 300,000 Qataris in the entire world. Qatar was massively exposed to scrutiny and criticism, and it seems as though that level of scrutiny and criticism doesn't necessarily apply in the United States' case. And I do believe that given the United States' economic and political power, but also the power of the president himself, this has been at the root of this decision being taken, and I find it very hard to believe that if it was another tournament in another place at a different time, possibly in a smaller country, the decision would not have been made.
On the pitch, at least, this tournament has been a big success. We've had great stories like Cape Verde. We had that excellent match between England and Mexico. What does this incident do in terms of overshadowing what has been a good tournament?
I think you've got to keep in mind that most World Cups, no matter how controversial the run-up to those World Cups are, ultimately tend to be exciting with great games. People tend to forget the geopolitics and the business and focus on the football. So I think this is another tournament that fits into that. Of course, one of the big changes this tournament is because of the enlargement in number from 32 to 48. Smaller nations or less successful nations have been able to participate for the first time. But I think it's really important not to kind of over-glamorise or patronise these countries, because, as I said, there have still been great tournaments in the past, great games in the past, but there have also always been these really controversial issues. And I think what's arguably, for me, what's been more significant is how well FIFA and the United States have managed to suppress those kind of controversial issues until now. So keep in mind, we've been going pretty much for 3 weeks now, 3.5 weeks. And there hasn't really been a major controversy, even though there have been controversies bubbling below the surface. It's only now that it's happening, but I think it was inevitable that it was going to, because this is a very, very sensitive tournament.
And just quickly, it looks like he's likely to play in the game later, even though Belgium are set to appeal. What happens now?
Well, Belgium will try and stop the player appearing. I think they will struggle to do that, particularly given the period of time where we're looking at, 7 or 8 hours now before the game kicks off. I would imagine that will be unsuccessful. Interestingly, the head of the appeal board is an American, and so he presumably is under a certain degree of pressure from various quarters as well. So I think the game will be played. The player in question will play. Belgium will not be able to do anything about this, but the ramifications will rumble on and on and on, because, as I say, I think this tournament is a tipping point, and what we may well get in the future is similar kind of decisions being made without consultation across the football community.
Simon Chadwick, thank you.